He was not just a companion, he was the closest friend the Prophet ever had. Their bond was something the world had rarely seen. When the Prophet passed away, it was Abu Bakr, who walked in quietly, uncovered his blessed face, kissed his forehead, and spoke words so full of love and peace that they silenced an entire room of grief. He then carried them through its most fragile moment. Apostasy was spreading, doubts were rising, and Abu Bakr stood like a mountain. Short years of leadership, but some of the most critical in all of Islamic history. When his own illness came, he met it with a calmness that reflected his entire life. No panic, no desperation, just trust in Allah. He passed away at the age of 63, the same age as the Prophet, and was buried beside the one he had loved more than anything in this world. Even in death, they were not separated. Then comes Umar ibn al-Khattab. His ending is one of strength beyond imagination. He was leading Fajr prayer when he was suddenly attacked, stabbed multiple times from behind. As he collapsed, bleeding heavily onto the ground of the masjid, his first thought was not himself. It was the prayer. He immediately pushed another companion forward to continue leading the congregation. Even in that moment of agony, his priority was Allah. When he was told who had attacked him, he felt something unexpected. Relief. Relief that it was not a Muslim who had struck him. That was Umar, even on the edge of death, thinking of thee. In his final days, he settled everything. His debts, the affairs of the Muslim world, and the question of succession. He prepared with the precision of a man who left nothing unfinished, and before he departed, he asked for one thing: to be buried beside the Prophet. That permission was granted by Aisha. He rested where he had always belonged. Uthman ibn Affan's death shook the Muslim world to its core. Rebels had surrounded his home for weeks. He had the loyal companions ready to defend him, the strength to resist, the right to fight back. But he refused. He would not allow Muslim blood to be spilled for his sake. He chose to endure rather than cause division. On the final day, he sat fasting. He was reciting Quran. The attackers broke through the door, and they martyred him in that very position, while the words of Allah were still on his lips. His blood fell onto the open pages of the Quran in his hands. That image has never left the memory of Islamic history. A man of patience, wronged, bleeding, and still holding the Book of Allah. Ali ibn Abi Talib's final moments reveal a level of mercy that is almost difficult to comprehend. He was struck with a poisoned sword on his way to Fajr prayer, a man of his courage and caliber, and he was attacked in the dark, heading toward Salah. As the poison worked through his body and his hours became numbered, he did not rage. Instead, he gave calm and measured guidance, justice, but no excess, no innocent blood, no in response to. He forgave, he advised, and his final words reflected a heart that was already at peace with Allah. He left this world with exactly the dignity he had carried through it. Talha ibn Ubaidullah was described by the Prophet himself as a living martyr. He had already given so much, his hand, his wealth, his youth for Islam. During a painful conflict among Muslims, he made the choice to step away. He did not want to fight. He was leaving, trying to avoid further bloodshed. And it was in that withdrawal, in that act of restraint, that an arrow found him and caused him to bleed until he passed. He died not charging forward, but stepping back. A heartbreaking end for a man whose loyalty was never in question. As Zubair ibn al-Awwam also walked away from that same conflict after being reminded of truth. A companion reminded him of words the Prophet had once said, and it was enough. As Zubair turned away from the battlefield, he stopped to pray, and it was in that moment his forehead on the ground and in the most humble and peaceful position a human being can take before Allah, that someone came from behind and attacked him. A warrior who had fought in nearly every major battle of early Islam, and he left this world in sujood. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas lived longer than most on this list. He was a commander of extraordinary ability, a man whose supplications were known to be accepted by Allah. As age came and his end approached, he made a request that says everything about who he was. He asked to be buried in the same clothes he had worn during his battles for Islam, not his finest garments, not the robes of a celebrated general, but the simple clothing of a soldier who had once stood for Allah on a battlefield. He wanted to meet his Lord wearing the memory of sincerity. Abdur Rahman ibn Awf carried wealth that few companions ever possessed, yet the condition of his was one of constant concern. He would sit with food in front of him and weeping, because he remembered companions who had left this world with nothing, who had known hunger, who had never experienced the comfort he now had. And he feared that perhaps his ease in this dunya might diminish his reward his death was peaceful. But his heart was always oriented toward what lay beyond. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah faced death as a leader. A deadly plague was tearing through the region. The advisors and leaders urged him to leave, to protect himself, to evacuate. He refused. He stayed with his soldiers. He chose to share in their suffering rather than escape it. A leader does not abandon his people when the difficulty arrives, and Abu Ubaidah never did. He remained until the plague took him too, and he returned to Allah from the same ground where his soldiers had fallen. He is perhaps the least spoken of among the 10, yet his story carries a quiet and lasting beauty. When he was wrongfully accused and publicly wronged, he did not retaliate with anger. He turned to Allah for justice, and Allah answered. He lived with integrity in every decade of his life. He passed away honored, not by crowds or monuments, but by the people who truly knew his worth. And sometimes, that is the most meaningful legacy of all.